Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Wednesday, June 21st. That means it's the first day of summer, as John keeps reminding us. Welcome aboard. Thanks a lot for being here with us. We appreciate you. Hope your week's going well. Good news is you've made it to the halfway point, and it's all downhill from here. Thanks a lot for being along on this broadcast. Of course, we're brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda, where you get the best in new and used vehicles. Go to andymorehonda.com for that, and Endeavor Hospitality and their wealth family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Whether you're visiting, stopping by, great places like BB's Market, the greatest of in-house made products, meats, and right next door, they've got the Chop Shop, brand new steakhouse that I am hearing nothing but great things about. Welcome aboard. How are you? Lots to talk about on the program today. A great list. Looking forward to Kyle Nedenrip joining us from the Indy Star. Of course, our great friend Rick Bozich as well later. And Tom Crean going to stop by. Looking forward to talking to the former Indiana coach about many things. The draft tomorrow night. But, of course, he's put a lot of guys in that draft. And he just had 3 play for a ring. Thomas Bryant winning that NBA Finals championship with the Denver Nuggets. So we'll talk about that and plus much more as well. How are you guys doing? Appreciate it jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Look at Pete. Hadn't seen him for a minute up in Shakopee, Minnesota. Oh, Andrew went to a Reds game last night. He said the vibe around that team is electric right now, as it should be. They won 10 in a row, baby. My Reds. Yeah. Bragging on them now. But, yeah, they won their 10th straight last night. Dude, the Reds are on fire. And let's hope that just continues. The Dolphins Hill investigated an alleged altercation. We'll touch on that. But how about these Cincinnati Reds, baby? 10 straight. I never thought I'd see that, but it's here. So they are still in first place. Got to love that. Trying to get those standings pulled up because I love to just look at it every time. But they're playing a series with the Rockies right now at home. So they won those first 8 games on the road, 2 more at home. That'll bring the crowds back. And Joey Votto, what did he do last night? He started out with a storm yesterday, coming back. Unbelievable. The Reds' highest paid player, of course, is Joey Votto, because no one else makes much money on that team. Their 3rd highest player, he was designated for assignment Tuesday. Their 4th highest player hasn't played since 2010 and hasn't played for the Reds since 2008. The 5th highest player led off Monday's game with a homer, and the 6th highest paid player was designated for assignment more than a month ago. How about that? I mean, that's nuts. Those players are Joey Votto, Mike Moustakas, Will Myers, Ken Griffey Jr., Kevin Newman, and Luis Cessa. Of those 6 players, only Votto and Newman are still with the Reds. Moustakas is a Rocky playing against the Reds. Cessa is currently in the rotation for the Rockies, also against the Reds, and their AAA team in Albuquerque. Griffey is still receiving deferred payments of $3.6 million per year on the contract he signed in 2000. How long has he been out of baseball? That's amazing. He's been getting paid $3.6 million a year to chill. How funny. Man, I need a gig like that. But that's not to be. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you joining us. As they said, Derek, there you go. Oh, the Braves come in this weekend. That'll be a true test. That's going to be an interesting series. My. Thanks for that, Derek. Bob, how are you doing down at Georgetown? Andrew, Mike, Fred, Pete, Kenneth, all jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often. Looking forward to Tom Crean joining us today, as he is always so gracious with his time. Greatly appreciate that. Talk to him about the guys I mentioned playing for the NBA championship. In addition to, we've got the draft coming up tomorrow night. We'll talk to him about Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis and his thoughts on where they'll land, college conference realignment, plenty of things to get to with him, and the difference in style of play, because he put a lot of players in the NBA, and it was a different style then, but to talk about how it's changed just over the last few years. And every time I look at Victor Wembanyama, what a freak of nature this dude is, man. 7'4". It's just crazy. You know how many people around the world would just love to be 6'4"? And he got an extra 12 inches to go with that. Nuts. John Boy, how is your day going?
You know, it's another rainy day where I'm at. But again, as I've been mentioning throughout the week so far, it is now, and you mentioned earlier too, Jim, it is the first day of summer, even though it's already felt like it since Memorial Day.
Yeah, we had the earlier bus, but it's summertime. I guess it depends on where you are, but if you're in the Ohio Valley in southern Indiana, it's pretty hot and humid a lot of the time, most of the time, and that's just part of it. But the weather's been pretty nice, at least in bits of most of southern Indiana here of late.
Yeah, I definitely think we had a good spring. It's not always the case of getting a good spring. I feel like sometimes you feel like you get an extended winter or an early summer. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it was a pretty nice season we had.
Pretty nice season. What'd you just get off of the?
Well, that's what it was, right? I mean, I know we all on sports radio, we always talk about seasons in reference to sports, but technically the physical season or the weatherly season just ended.
You are correct, sir. You are absolutely. Hey, before I forget, Never Lose Hoop golf outing coming up on July 20. That's a Thursday at the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Do you have that? There you go. There's the link. You can just look up golf stat. Go to golf. I think you can just go to golfstatus.com and then look for Never Lose Hoop. But this is the official link is events.golfstatus.com. And you should be able to just go through that and look for Never Lose Hoop, but we'll post the link as well for you guys to find that. But you can do everything through that. Register. The information is there. Hello, Cheryl Sizemore. Good morning to you. And for those of you, if you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her. It's Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com, who is already a sponsor of the Never Lose Hoop, and we greatly appreciate Cheryl for that and much more. Hope you're having a great day. But yeah, we'll post that link as well, so you can go there. Everything will be there: registration, sponsorship available opportunities. There's going to be not one, not two, but 3 hole-in-one contests. That's right, 3. You get 3 shots at winning big dollars, people. These are all on par 3s. There's no catch. One is for $10,000, $10,000, and it's just on it's hole number 10. I'm assuming that's going to be on hole 10, which is generally plays anywhere from 120 to 140 yards. It goes over a crevice, but it's an optical illusion. But $10,000, baby. Then you got 2 more shots to win $5,000 each. So go there, and if you're interested in a sponsorship, find yourself one, or put a team together. I talked to Woody at Huber's back in was it the end of May 31st, and he said, "Yeah, I should be in. I'll be done with everything. Should be able to play." No, he's been getting his knee going. He's been out to play a little bit, so he'll be playing by then fully. So look at Jordan Halls, of course. There, in addition to many others. I think some of the Hoosiers for Good guys will be there as well. So we're looking forward to having a just complete fun day at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studio. So just make sure you go there and get signed up. Never Lose Hoop. Golfstatus.com. Never Lose Hoop for everything there. Let's see. College World Series going on. TCU and LSU live to see another day. LSU will play Wake Forest tonight. LSU wins that. They both will continue. LSU has 1 loss already. If they lose, they're done. And if, see it, was it TCU in Florida? That leaves TCU in Florida. I assume they play today as well. I have to pull that up for sure. But Florida and LSU, well, Florida's undefeated. TCU's not undefeated. LSU's not undefeated. Is Florida's the only undefeated team left? Not to keep track of. If that's the case, yeah, they've got a loss to spend.
Break.
We've got to take a break. Coming up next, former Indiana coach, Georgia coach, and Marquette. Tom Crean joined us here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market, I don't know that, Andrew. I was going to ask him who his baseball team is.
Who?
Tom Crean.
That's a good question. By the way, Kyle Nenrip has switched to tomorrow, so we won't have Kyle today.
Hey, if I just paused at one point, would we be able to insert a commercial? Or is that too hard?
It's not that it's hard. It's just it has to be. It doesn't need to be clear. Here. He's Tom Crean in the green room. I'll go ahead and pull him in.
Hey, Coach, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
you sound
sir.
perfect.
All right. Do I need to? Let me see. I just.
We are in commercial break right now. Just to
All right. Do I need to do anything else, or am I good?
No, you're great.
Okay.
How's it going?
It's going fine. How's your area down there? How's your Florida? You get a lot of rain last night?
No zip that I'm aware of. Must have missed us. Which
Oh, yeah, we got a ton last night.
We got plenty a few days before that. I had to go down to my friend's boat and knock about 100 pounds of water off of it. It seemed like.
Is that right?
Oh man, yeah, it was just loaded down.
So you getting out on the water a lot?
No, I've just been out twice.
That's great. We don't really live near the water. We go to Longboat Key. Some, like I've mentioned in the past, we went to St. Armand Circle the other night, which is nice. But
I went over to Sanibel a couple times, and the water was just beautiful, green.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
That's great. So they didn't get hit real hard by the hurricane last year.
Oh no, they got crushed because
That's right. Yeah, that's Sanibel Island, right?
Yeah, and where I am right now, it was a direct hit.
Wow.
I remember calling my friend, and he was in the eye. I was in Bloomington, and I was watching it. And I'm like, I've got to call Charlie. I said, he's in the eye right now. I'm like, I've never talked to somebody in the eye of a hurricane.
Wow. What happened with this house?
Well, it's a newer condo that is built to withstand it. But they said that after the surge, there were fish in the pool, and the pool was like black. It's all kinds of fish in there. I took a picture of a shark here last December, right here in the marina, and I was like, wow.
That's awesome.
20 seconds, guys.
Let me just close this door.
Okay.
Out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It's a great Wednesday. You've made it to the halfway point, and it's the start of summer. We're bringing the heat. Former college coach Tom Crean joining us, ESPN analyst. How are you, Coach? Appreciate you taking the time. Always so gracious, and we appreciate that. And I think that there you go. I would think you froze up for a second. We got you.
Sorry.
That's right. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's good to be with you. So thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate you always being so gracious with us. First of all, who's your baseball team? I got to get this out of the way. I've been bragging on my Reds because I haven't been able to talk about the Cincinnati Reds forever. And I've been talking about that this morning. Someone asked, is Coach Crean a Reds fan? I'm like, I doubt it, but who's your baseball team?
Well, it was always the Detroit Tigers growing up in Michigan, but I fell in love with baseball with the Big Red Machine. So
really,
absolutely. So the Reds, George Foster was my favorite player. Loved Pete Rose. Got to know Pete Rose while I was coaching, and so there was always this. I had a fandom, and he's been great with me, but when you get to know Pete Rose after following him as a kid, it's incredible. You don't even ever think that's going to happen. But I always liked the Reds, and I grew to like the Cardinals. But Detroit would be my team because that's what I did, and I would get to go to the games with my dad and things. But I'm happy for the Reds because I got a lot of Reds fans, friends, and I'm happy to see them be excited. But I love what they're doing. That's an incredible night when you're at a ball game in Cincinnati, or an incredible weekend when you're in Cincinnati and the Reds are playing.
Yeah, I grew up when I was a kid. The Big Red Machine was happening, and I was fortunate to get to see them play. George Foster and Cesar Geronimo and Ken Griffey. Pete Rose was my favorite player. Just hard-nosed, singles, just whatever it took. That just loved, emulated him as a player. He was just great to fun to watch, and what a team. That's back when you could always know every team player by name. Now that before they're all switched around, and moved all over the place. But yeah, what a great time.
Yeah, they've done a great job building that up. I mean, it really, with the way that they've drafted, and one of their scouting directors, Mark McKnight, is a friend of mine, and so I follow it close. And I'm a big Walt Jocketty fan, so I've always followed the Reds, when he was there. And so to see them build up through the draft, to see them make the trades that they've made to build the draft system, the farm system, and to see what they've done with that is fantastic.
I was just in the earlier segment, I was reading something that of the Reds' top 6 players, I think only 2 of them are on the team right now. And Ken
cool.
Wilkie Jr. has been getting paid $3.6 million a year still for deferred payment. So I'm like going, that's not a bad gig if you can get it. I talked about the NBA draft is coming up. Trace Jackson Davis, of course, from Indiana. Jalen Chifino from Indiana have a shot to go. There's not a lot of guys. Purdue doesn't really have anybody with the big man going back. So this draft, the draft has changed in a way only because basketball, the NBA game has changed a little bit, the style of play. So the guys who would normally have been drafted higher or going later, but it's just an evolution of things. How have you seen it change just in the last 10 years?
Well, I think there's a lot of that. I mean, obviously the draft continues to stay young. And at one point there were so many, like 3 straight years set the record for most non-Americans being drafted. And I think there'll be quite a few this year, but it's not where it was. And right now in the NBA, 1 out of every 5.2 or 5.3 players in the NBA are from another country. And back probably, what would it have been? Maybe the last 18 to 20 years ago, it was 1 out of every 13. So it's really changed in that way. And because it's such a world game, and there'll be some really good players. Obviously, the number 1 pick with Victor coming from France sets the tone right off the bat with non-Americans. But the bottom line is, I think what's happening in drafts more and more and more is it's such a developmental draft. And if you get somebody that can get into your rotation, then you've really, really hit a home run. Now, if you get somebody that can be a starter and be one of your leading scorers, odds are you're not a very good team and you're trying to build your way up. Obviously there's outliers to that. But for the most part, if you can find a way to get a draft pick that by January, February, March is in your rotation and can contribute to a team, and if you find somebody like Christian Braun was with Denver that can be an integral part of your team on the way to a championship, then that's really unique. But I saw a stat yesterday and actually retweeted it because it was 17 years ago that Dwayne Wade and the Miami Heat won the championship, and he was the only rookie or only guy to lead his team to an NBA championship that was still on a rookie deal. So I think that says a lot about where it's at. But I think there'll be some really good developmental picks. When you look back at the draft 3 years from now, you're going to see guys that really, really were maybe picked too late or not valued high enough, but they're going to end up having really good careers. I think it's a great draft for 18 to 40 this year. I think there's going to be a lot of good players come out of that. They're going to end up being contributing members to their team. Well,
that would be a spot where Trace Jackson Davis would find himself. As a lot of the mock drafts, most I've seen him, he's somewhere situated in the middle of the second round. Some are have him higher, some a little lower, but you can be like the big man Joker from Denver. I think, what is he, for the 41st pick when he was selected?
I think he was in the 50s, actually. Maybe 51. I'm not exactly sure, but somewhere like that. Way too low, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, that's the key, finding that hidden gem.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And I think the second round will have that. I think now that you can have 3 two-ways on your team, I think that's what's increased with people believing that even if they don't get drafted, they're going to make an NBA roster. And that's probably being as scouted right now as much as anything in draft rooms. And in they're not in the draft room yet, they will be tomorrow. But as far as in the offices, like who could we get Who could we trade up for in the second round, or who could we get to sign to a two-way that doesn't get drafted, that's going to have maybe as good a shot as getting on our club this year as a late first-round pick or a second rounder.
And you know a lot about what it takes because you put a ton of guys into professional basketball. For the guys from Indiana, there's still 4. I think you still have former IU players that are in the league right now, at least, if not more.
Noah was during the year, and obviously Victor and Cody with Miami, Thomas Bryant with Denver, OG Anunoby with Toronto. That's what we have right now. You're right.
And OG still, I just always, and I hope I'm correct when I repeat this, I remember that you had gone out to scout Juwan Morgan, I think, out in Missouri someplace, and you saw OG and said, "Who's this dude?" And he wasn't on the roster or something.
Well, no, that was actually at a camp. Juwan was separate because he was in the EYBL, which was Nike centered, and OG Anunoby was in the Under Armour tournament. So we definitely went to Atlanta and bought our packets. I think for 3 coaches to be there, it cost us $750 to be there. And watching this guy with floppy hair and a headband guard the ball and spread out, and he wasn't in the book, and he was playing for Team Thad, a team out of Memphis, and just was enthralled watching him play. I was there to see somebody else play, but as the game went on, and then as the next game went on, it was just totally about watching OG. And then once we got his name out of the scorebook and get back home, dive into the film. So I always tell people, like, it's your film is really, really important, because we became intrigued by OG watching him play, but I offered him a scholarship based off of his film. And a lot of it was because of the way the film was set up. It wasn't set up as just some highlight tape. It was more or less set up as a teaching tape. So you saw all the different ways that he scored. You saw his offense. You saw that he could move without the ball, that he could drive the ball, that he could shoot it. You saw some of the defense on the film. You didn't have any idea. You knew he had the length and you could see the body, but until you really dove into him, you didn't understand how good a defender he could be. But those type of things are really, really important. And then my mind was made up watching him on film and then talking to him the first time, and the rest is history. He's having an excellent career, and I think for a guy that's getting ready, he's not even 26 yet. He'll be 26 in the month of July. This will be his 7th season in the NBA, and as well as Thomas Bryant's 7th season, and he's not 26 yet. So those guys have done a fantastic job. Thomas will be a free agent. I think he'll get a good deal. And the one thing no one can ever take away from him is he's an NBA champion. And OG will have decisions to make when they bring the extension to him. And OG is going to make a lot of money in that league for a lot of years.
Yeah, he is just a durable guy. I mean, he had the shoulder problem, or was that Juwan?
Juwan had the shoulder issues.
Yeah, Juwan had the shoulder. But he's just been so durable and quiet in a way that he just goes about his business and does his job every game in, game out. And he's just always has been a fun player to watch. Just enjoy him.
Well, the way the money's going, I mean, he's going to be, I don't know if he'll get to max, but he'll be really close if he's not max. And around the trade deadline, and you see his name now, whether any of it is true or not is irrelevant. What's a fact is that people see him as a winner. They see him as an impact player in a championship level type team, because he is. He's so unique. He can guard 1 through 5. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. At some point in time, somebody's going to see that they need to vote for him on the first team. And I thought I had 2 guys last year, in OG Anunoby and then Nick Claxton, who plays for Brooklyn, that were worthy of way more credit defensively. And Anthony Edwards at Minnesota is a guy that's capable of moving up that ladder too defensively. But OG can guard everybody. He doesn't need the ball to be effective. He can shoot the ball. He can cut. He can rebound. He's extremely smart. But the bottom line is, whatever you need done defensively, he can do. And I think that's what makes him such a key part of anything that comes up where anybody is looking at an opportunity to even remotely see if they could get him. That's why they're doing it. And Toronto would be really, really smart to make sure that if they keep him, that he's a building block moving forward with this new coaching staff, that he gets even more of a role on that team.
Kenneth asked a good question. Victor came in as a 3-star, and obviously you just told the story of OG. At what point did you know that they were much better, going to be much better than Victor was a 3-star? I mean, he comes to you as a 3-star and leaves as the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. That's a gigantic jump. Victor
Well, I think his work ethic. See, I always felt when we were recruiting him that he would be a pro. I really did. I mean, really, we wouldn't have signed him. And I thought that there was the enormous opportunity with what I thought he could do, what we could get him to do, what we could help him and teach him to do with that attitude, with that energy, with that athleticism, with that spirit that he had. I thought that could happen. But I guess there's always moments. I would say the year that we played and he was just relentless on the offensive glass. We lost 2 games in Las Vegas, but his freshman year or sophomore year, I guess it was. But he was relentless on the glass, just relentless. So I guess that would have been his freshman year. And he got some offensive rebounds late, and I said, this guy's got a different level of energy. The biggest thing to me, where the turning point game was after Verdell Jones III got hurt at Michigan, and we went up to Purdue the night before the Super Bowl was held in Indianapolis. And we went in and we beat Purdue, and we beat them soundly. And we put him on the ball in the middle of the floor, which he had been doing at certain times in games. He'd been doing it quite a bit in practice, but he had not been the primary pick and roll ball handling guard in games. And that sophomore year against Purdue, and I think he had 24 points, 26 points, some number like that. He was phenomenal. And I think from that point on, it was more, okay, like, how do we continue to enhance this? But certainly the next year when his jumps from 3-point shooting increased so much, he went from shooting 14% from 3 as a sophomore in the Big Ten to 47% from 3 in the Big Ten as a junior. I think those type of games and that type of production made us believe that he was going to be probably a top 5 pick. And the top 2 was certainly significant based on what he did. And he would have even had chances to go number 1. And I'm sure Cleveland would have liked to have that pick back, that they made with Anthony Bennett, if they would have had it to do over again. And Victor would have been a guy sitting there with that chance. But those are the kind of things that really showed us that Victor had that. I think for us with OG, when we went to Michigan his freshman year, and he came off the bench, and we started to switch, and he started to guard Zach Irvin at the top of the key, and Zach really couldn't get around him. And everything that we were doing with him in the game defensively was igniting our team, and we went on an incredible run at the end of the first half after being down early in the first half, which led us to a great victory that game at Michigan. I think that's when we saw that, okay, OG is going to be a special player, because not only can he make a shot for us, he can lock up whatever we need done in these games. And then the rest took off, and unfortunately he got hurt his sophomore year, as everybody knows, and missed his last 18 games, which absolutely crushed us and crushed me. But bottom line is, he's turned out to be a heck of an NBA player, and I think he's going to continue to do it for a long time.
Yeah, I don't want to skip, but Kevin Brockway, our good friend of the show, was with us yesterday, commented he thought your comments are good. Another good friend of ours, Bob Kravitz, were very well stated. Bob, a good friend of ours, back on this week, later in the week. But yeah, I didn't see that, but looking forward to having Bob back with us.
Yeah, that was a shame. Bob is a talented guy, and as I said, I was reading him long before I ever got to Indiana, because he was an Indianapolis writer, but he was a national guy. Like people that followed sports learned something when they read Bob. And if he decides to retire, good for him. But if he decides to keep writing or do something in broadcasting where he's talking sports, then it's good for us. And I hope he does whatever he wants to do, because he is a talented guy.
I agree, and I told him those very things. As we continue going, the NBA Finals just wrapped, we talked about a minute ago. What was it like having 3 guys playing for a championship, playing for that lifelong ring that no one can take away from you? Somebody was going to win it. It ends up being Thomas Bryant and the Nuggets, but that's got to be awesome just for those guys to have those opportunities.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing. No matter what you've done financially, no matter what you do stats-wise, no matter how many games you're a part of that are exciting and that you win in a row and all those type of things, if you're playing for an NBA championship and then you win one, like Thomas did, like OG did, even though he was hurt, like Dwayne Wade did 3 times in our time at Marquette, those things are incredible. And because nothing will ever be taken away from them in that way. They'll have that ring. And Thomas Bryant was doing a fantastic job this year in LA. I mean, he was playing very, very well. In good, bad, or indifferent, the push to leave there may not have worked out statistically and minutes-wise for him in Denver, but the fact that he's got a ring and the fact that he's proven what he can do in the NBA is going to lead him to really good things. And for Cody and Victor to have that opportunity, and certainly Victor got hurt early in that run, which was just heartbreaking. But to see Cody be a part of that and know all the time that Cody has put into this game and know what he's overcome with injuries, and to be in that type of environment, to see that was awesome. And it goes to show that not only do you feel the benefits of coaching guys like that when you're with them, but it's really, really hard to play and win a championship if you don't have good people on your team. And those guys have all shown what we already all knew. They are really good people, and they were able to impact their teams.
Coming up, the draft tomorrow night. Mentioned Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino, former Indiana players that are in the draft, expected to be taken. Watching college basketball this year, Jalen Hood-Schifino, I talk about him. He's a guy that's been training to be a pro his whole life, and from his diet, from everything he does at Montverde Academy. He's just being around him. You could just tell he was training to his mind to be a professional. And I don't know if people understand that it is a complete and total mindset all the time. The amount of work that they have to put into it, including your diet, your workout, all of that stuff. But Jalen is just one of those guys that looks like he's going to be successful in what he does. But from a coaching standpoint, what do you see?
Well, I think you hit it exactly right. And I don't know Jalen Hood-Schifino personally, but I've watched him for a long time. I think you're exactly right. He's been training, and he's a part. You see the workouts and the individual workouts and things like that come out in his game. I think what's going to be huge is his ability to make decisions moving forward in traffic and being stronger with the ball, better decision making with his passing, stronger passes, reading all those situations. Certainly, he's got to build consistency into his shot. I don't think there's any question about that. I think he can be a much better defender. But I think it's going to be really, really important that he build that driving game. And he's an outstanding dribbler, and he plays with pace. But I think it's going to be really, really important where he goes that he can play with even more speed by getting the ball out in front of him and changing direction even more and extending his legs and the dribble and playing faster like that. And I think that he's really a guy that is just going to continue to grow as a player. And I think it's going to be really important, whatever team he goes to, that they build those habits. And there's certain changes and additions that he's got to make to his game to be a bona fide NBA guy for a long period of time. And hopefully he gets into a program that will do that with him and allow him to do that, and then give him the chance to play. Because I think that size, like, he fits all the metrics, the size, the speed, the workout ability, the training, like you said. Now he's got to really apply that on a consistent basis to making his teammates better with his decision-making, with his passing ability of being on time, on target, and the precision of it, especially, like I said, playing in traffic, and then becoming a very reliable shooter. And I think if he gets that, he'll be fine.
For Trace Jackson Davis, I've been as guilty as anyone of talking too much about. his lack of shooting a shot, jump shot, which not that it's not important, it is, but he's a great athlete. So he will find a way to benefit his team. Not necessarily from behind the 3-point line, but he has a place in the NBA. He's so athletic and so talented and works hard. And it's hard to imagine a player like that not being able to find a spot.
Well, I think he will. I think it's going to be really important that whoever gets him really looks at what he hasn't done and what he needs to do, not just what he has done. Like, obviously, when he rebounds the ball, his second effort is tremendous. He's a very good vertical athlete. That's why you see the shots blocked the way that he does, and you see that second effort on the glass, and you see the dunks where he's got to get better as horizontally. He's got to get better playing with his length on the outside. He's got to get better at not only defending the ball, but defending in pick and roll situations. He's got to be able to switch out and guard in space. And that's going to take some footwork ability, and it's going to take being able to extend his feet. It's going to be able to play longer and wider. Like, if you can imagine, obviously he's done such a great job at the rim. Now take that same length that you have vertically, spread it out, and become that much better deflecting passes or stealing passes or putting pressure on the ball or defending that pocket pass that guards throw so well by getting your hands lower and quicker. And if I had him this summer in an NBA place, I would be making him or having him, like we did with our bigs all the time back at Indiana, Marquette, and even Nick Claxton at Georgia, have them guard guards all summer long, where they just get so used to having to guard speed and quickness. Because for him, he brought the ball up the floor, okay, this year, but what he's got to do, he's got to be able to guard the ball up high. He's got to be able to make plays out of the elbow to be an NBA player with his passing. He is going to have to shoot the ball at some point in time. At that size, he's going to have to be a legitimate pick and pop threat shooting the ball. But I think the way he gets on the floor, obviously his rebounding skill, he can pass the ball, especially out of the post. He's going to have to be able to pass the ball on the perimeter, like I mentioned. Hard, running the floor hard every time, building that quickness and that quick twitch in his length and playing with that length, and then truly being able to guard guards in switching situations, trapping situations, and in emergency situations on an NBA floor. And if he gets those things, he'll get a chance to play while he's developing all those other skills.
I mentioned Trey Jackson-Davis, his era. He was here for 4 years, and now I look at college basketball as more of a 2-year kind of a cyclical sport, it seems, with guys. They're probably not going to be there longer than that. If they're really good, if they're a top 20, they're going to be gone to the draft. And if not, you've got, with the transfer portal, so much change. You've seen this happen during your tenure. It's just, man, it's happened while you've been out. When you come, is that made it more interesting to get back into coaching, or does it make you want to say maybe I want to sit back here a little longer and not get involved?
No, I want to coach, but I want to coach in the right place. I mean, it's got to be with the right administration. It's got to be with the right name, image, and likeness. There's a lot of people around the country, no matter if they're in a high-level program, maybe a program that's not as big a name. If you've got the right NIL money and you got the right corporations and companies behind you, like Indiana with the collectives, but they also have Cook behind them. All right. And when you have that, like, you can do a lot of things, and not everybody's going to have the same amount of money. The powerful companies, the powerful multimillionaires are certainly the billionaires that can get behind your program. That's what you see around the country right now. That's why there's so much more parity in recruiting. Okay. But the thing I miss the most is the development, because the more I watch basketball and the more I study it and the more I prepare for what I do with ESPN, the more I see development going down. And Jim, what's crazy to me is as the portal and as the NIL and as the money and all those things drive up, the development of players and their skills and their weaknesses, and that being the focus from the players and a lot of times from the coaches is going down. And that's what I see. And when I'm on television, I get paid to say what I see, not what somebody tells me to see. And that's what I see when I watch the film. And I think you mentioned the top 20. I think more and more people are going to leave it for the NBA if they think they can be in the top 35 to 40. Because if you can be in the top 35 to 40, excuse me, then you've got a chance to climb up, because then a lot of times it becomes beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And now you'll have even more as people start to realize, like, this third two-way contract pays well. But if people don't start to get really, really serious about making their players better, like I loved this time of year, like this week right now, I miss this. Like we'd be having camp, right? And then you're on the phone with NBA teams about your players, and you can't do anything for the draft except be on the phone. And then the draft becomes Thursday night, but you're in the camp working and watching your coaches. And then most importantly, I would never miss a workout with my team. I wasn't leaving the workouts to the assistants or to the GAs when we had our time. I'm going to be with the team, right? I'm going to be, because that's what they're coming for. All right. They're not coming for you to go play golf. They're coming for you to be in there to make them better. And to me, that's what's so important. And I miss that part of it. And that's the part that I miss that as much as I miss anything else, because when you get in this, you get in it for players, you get in it for kids. Certainly it pays really well. And there's a lot of notoriety that comes with it, but that's not why you get in. You get in to make players better so that they can learn the things that will take for your program to win. And it's a 365-day-a-year job, whether you want it to be or not. That's what it is. And you've got to be consumed, and you've got to be committed, and you've got to be absolutely concerned with how do you make everybody in your program, coaches and players, coaches meaning entire staff and players, better every day. Because a lot of times they have no idea what that is. And now where this sits, I mean, my name, image, and likeness first year of it was at Georgia, and we had two guys make $1,600, and $1,000 of that $1,600 for two guys came from Crystal, the hamburger place, right? We had 6 other guys make $600. You know, now I hear the money that's being utilized at Georgia and all those other places, and it's mind-boggling, right? I want to get back in that. I want to get back in there and be a part of that. But most importantly, I want to be where we can absolutely make the players better and continue to get guys that see that there's so much more money to be made being in an NBA team than there is the money that you can make in college. And you can make a lot of money in college right now.
Absolutely. Coach, I cannot thank you enough, again, as always, for being so gracious with the time with us. We so appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts. You're always a blast. The fans love hearing from you, and we do too.
Well, I appreciate it, Jim. Thanks for having me, and hope everybody has a great summer back there in Bloomington and in the area and the entire state of Indiana. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Coach Tom Crean joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Thank you, Coach, man. I
You're
hope
welcome.
you have a great day and
You too. We got the clouds and the rain coming. You enjoy that sunshine.
Hey, don't forget, if you get over to Anna Maria Island, let me know.
Oh yeah, I will. I haven't been over there. We're probably 45 minutes or 50 minutes or so from there, but I will. If I'm going over there, I'll text you.
All right, brother. Have a great
Have fun.
Coach. Thank
Bye-bye.
you so
Thank
much.
you, guys.
All right, so we'll come back and you'll do a short, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll break again. Good timing there.
Trying to get to it. Yeah, that was good. The hell was that?
It was one of my notifications.
That sounded like it was here. The truth. You just tuned in too late, man. You just missed the Tom Crean. But you can go back and watch it. That's the great thing about it.
That's right.
So what do you want me? How do you want me to end this?
Well, you'll just do 3 or 4 minutes.
No, I meant in general for four, and just say
just do what you normally do. Kind of take a second or two pause, and then go and just the same way you always do. And maybe go ahead and throw in like thank Tom Crean again. You know what I mean? Just do that one more time.
yes.
But don't like end the show, obviously, but just thank him
No.
again.
And do you want me to say, for those of you staying with us, coming up next?
Yeah, you could say that if you want. That's fine. That doesn't hurt
Second
anything.
hour? Coming up in the second hour?
I can't remember. Is Fort Wayne planning on adding a second hour after their baseball stuff is done? Or is it just
Not baseball. It's just whenever they can get the programming.
Gotcha. I thought it had something to do with their baseball coverage.
I never did hear back from Gus. I just thought of that.
He's actually on vacation this week. I don't know when you sent the email, but he's off this week.
Oh, it's been a couple of weeks.
All right, here we go.
The heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday, June 21. It's first day of summer here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studio. Jim Coyle with you. In the Mobile Studio, brought to you by Logos and Promotions, who there was a story yesterday, Tyler Toshman in the Star, in regards to Malik Renew, Indiana basketball player, his signature hamburger that he has, speaking of NIL, at Big Woods there in Indiana. And Logos and Promotions does all of Big Woods merchandising. You know that, well, I better not say it, but they have the blonde, pretty funny shirt, blonde ale. I'm not going to say what the shirt says. It's just pretty funny. So there's that. But great conversation with Tom Crean. Can never thank him enough for coming on to join us. He is always so gracious with his time. We greatly appreciate him. For those of you that are staying with us into the second hour, of course, Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer, will be with us. Kyle Nedrup from the Indy Star, rescheduled for tomorrow, which not a lot going on in the high school world. And if there's anybody that deserves a break, Kyle Nedrup. I don't know if there's anybody that works harder than he does. Coming up in the next hour, we'll talk a little bit about IU's financial numbers. Another story in the Star, but talking that they're some of the best numbers in the country. USA Today published an annual report of its college athletics financial database, and Indiana is among its top earners, specifically number 13. So that's good. That's a great bounce back from where they were a few years ago with COVID. We've got to take a break. And when we come back, the great Rick Bozich will join us a little bit later, and we'll reconvene on this conversation with the finances. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
All right. You've always done pretty good since we've been with Fort Wayne at getting out correctly. I feel like that's something you never had an issue with so far, which is great.
well, I was looking at the clock instead of the time there, and I'm like, man, do I get out or do I wait another minute?
No, you're good. I kind of popped in a little late, but it's no bit. It wasn't late. Like getting out, we were fine.
And then I started thinking, and that's why I was like hesitant. I'm like,
No, we're good. Yeah, that's always good. You should probably always, maybe in general, always start mentioning the second hour's coming up kind of thing. I think that's a good thing to do regularly if you want to.
it is. You are correct. You are correct, sir. Doodle-doo-doo.
I'm getting all sorts of. You're hearing all my notifications today. It sounds like. That was my work email notification. The other one was my Gmail notification. All right, here we go.
Date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Thanks a lot for joining us. Appreciate you being here with us on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this first day of summer, Wednesday, June 21. When we went to break, there's a story in the Star today, and I can't tell you who it's by because they're bylineless right now, and we support that. Writers, I saw this on this writers thing. This is not just with the Star. I mean, there was the Writers Guild. There was a TV show the other night I was watching. So, man, without writers, there's nothing. There are no TV shows, no newspapers to read. Well, they're still providing the content and good content at that. I mentioned that Indiana listed as one of the most profitable athletic departments, but you need to read the story there was an article, not a headline. Someone published this in a report, but you need to read the story because there's a lot more to it than that. There was a big gift given, a one-time gift from I think it was the IU Foundation. And I think that was to prop up some of the post-COVID issues. So it artificially inflated the numbers to look better than they are. It doesn't come out the way I wanted to, but it's not completely the way it looks. Well, it's not the way it looks at all. Because if you take those away, it changes everything. But it started a discussion about Indiana football and this and that and the other thing when it was there. All the information was not before these people when they were making a lot of this stuff. So Indiana's not as profitable as you think they are in athletics. And I don't mean that they're not profitable, but was exaggerated to a degree. It's akin to a place like where you live, John. I don't think Indianapolis does this, but Louisville sits in Jefferson County in Kentucky. Well, their population used to be what the city was. Well, then they went into a merger with the county, and now they count the population of the entire county. No one moved in, but all of a sudden they went from being like the 50th biggest city into like what 16th. Then that what they used to put. That sign's gone, by the way. I can laugh about that. Remember that?
I know what you're talking about, and I think you're right. They're definitely not listed as 16th anymore.
See, and they used to brag. They put that sign up when you would cross the bridge from Indiana, into Kentucky, saying "Welcome to the 16th largest city in America."
What a weird thing to brag about, too.
Well, it was because they were trying to be bigger than they were. It was a load of crap.
But even if you were the 16th largest city, which they were obviously exaggerating it, why brag about something like? I feel like unless you're in the top 10, you shouldn't be saying we're the X number of something.
I don't think you should do it at all because it's like everything else. Pretend you've been there. Pretend you've been there before. There's a saying, don't go around acting goofy. Act like you've been there before, man. But yeah, no other town does that. City does that, did that. So that was just kind of funny. But I just now thought, I'm like, oh yeah, that sign's long gone now. They took that thing down, man. I think that they probably got tired of they got more. I bet they probably got more flack about it, as rightfully so.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think you're right about that.
Mike says they did something similar to where he lived in his hometown, annexing large portions of the county and magically increasing the population. Great way to drive up some tax dollars as well. Forrest loves Coach Crean, but him talking about defending is weird. Great offensive mind, though. Incredible person for sure.
I'll tell you what, one thing that people used to get aggravated about, I feel like, when Tom Crean was head coach, was whenever he would count deflections. Wasn't that a thing that he used to do?
Yeah, but I mean, you should. I mean, that's
no, I agree with you, but I do also remember that bothered people for some reason.
What doesn't bother people?
Yeah, that's true. Fans, especially it's not even just Indiana fans. All major fan bases have their sections that get aggravated by things like that.
Oh, people in life, brother. People in life, they love to complain.
Oh, yeah.
Love to complain. I won't complain when Rick comes on today. I'm looking forward to that. We'll talk a little more about those financing numbers, but it's just, I only brought it up because it became a thing on Twitter. The numbers were just put out as boom.
There was a graphic.
Yeah, and I think Indiana showed to be the top revenue generating school in the country at
And that,
like
yep, you're correct. I don't
$34
remember
million.
who published that, but yes.
And so it just ignited this firestorm over again. That's like, it drives me nuts. I love when anybody acknowledges whatever we do, but when people comment on headlines, it drives me insane. Do not comment on a headline because you're not getting the story. You're getting a snippet, a tease. But so many times people will see a comment, they commented on it. It's like, boom. Well, I'm like, listen to the show. Tanis Half Elvin says Tom Crean's weave offense is what he remember him taking criticism for. Man, he got a lot of guys. Well, I keep saying this. He's got a lot of guys playing professional basketball. Yeah, he made mistakes, but who doesn't? Everybody does and did, but he's been appreciate him being gracious with us, and always look forward to that. But yeah, that trust me, I look back every day on find something I did wrong yesterday, all day, every day, and twice on Tuesday. John agrees.
I do, by default.
A new agreement with the WNBA players will have an opportunity to get an MBA through the Women's National Basketball Players Association with Indiana's Kelley School of Business. That was announced yesterday. Each season, over 95% of the women drafted graduate with their undergraduate degrees. 95%. Wow. Of the draft class. That's pretty damn good. And some have started graduate programs. Terry Jackson, executive director of NBPA, said in a statement. So that's pretty cool. The degree will be online with an option for an in-person program, allowing players to complete their schooling anywhere in the U.S. or the world. They can pursue postgraduate education through the school's MBA executive degree program, certificates, or Masters of Science degrees. Now, I am not someone smart enough to have an MBA from the Kelley School. So I ask if there's a Kelley School grad out there. I'm not sure we have smart enough people that smart that are listening. Just kidding. Does it seem easier doing it online? If you did it yourself in person, I'm just curious. I don't know at that level. I don't know that it matters. But it brings in, I guess, there's no way to really cheat at that stuff, I would imagine, that because the testing is where it comes down to. But that's a cool deal. And it's also good for Indiana University and the Kelley School. That can raise their profile, already a top 10 school, business school. Who are you picking on the NBA draft for the Pacers? Who do you think they're going to pull that first spot? Number 7 pick. It's things seems like they're changing, so I don't know that we can predict that just yet. It's going to be interesting. The one thing that's locked in is Victor Wembanyama. After that, I don't know that we know the number 2 pick. There's some uncertainty on who's taking whom and trades. What trades are going to happen? What trade is going to happen? Well, what trades are going to happen, I should say. Blockbuster, I saw, was it Paul George as a possible, not to the Pacers, but back on the potential trading block. So that'll be interesting. Who do the Pacers trade? Some favorites over the last couple of years that might not be there next year. Miles Turner coming back. The Truth still likes Indiana football. He says they win 7 games this season.
There are so many unknowns with Indiana football, but what's giving people optimism is the fact that they have, I believe, a top 15 transfer class. And how those transfers turn out to be, including at quarterback, which we still don't know who that will be.
Well, that's a big mystery.
I mean, my guess right now would be Taven Jackson, even though he's a redshirt freshman. He definitely has the most potential out of the guys who are in that quarterback room. But that's what's gonna come down to for Indiana football. And if they can take a step forward this year in their final year in the East Division before they go divisionless, they have a very, very favorable schedule in year one with a 16-team conference. So it's very crucial for Tom Allen, not only for his job security, but in general for Tom Allen to take a step forward again this year.
Offensive line is
absolutely
really, but normally that has been something that just when I said those 2 words, I would cringe. That problem has been solved. And that was by getting, short of saying a better coach for that position for Indiana. We saw improvement within the season last year at the end. So we expect to see more of that and continued improvement. And with the transfers, now they give themselves an opportunity to improve upon that even more. And that's going to be key, because if you end up having a young quarterback like you predicted possibly could be Taven Jackson, he's going to need one thing and more than anything else, and that is protection. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The great Rick Bozich joins us next from WDRB.com. Back with that and more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Good morning, Richard.
How are you?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I cannot complain. Get some rest, which is awesome.
Tom Crean was on?
Yep.
EKA came on in the first hour.
How was he?
Great. He's always gracious with us, man. And I've just talked about everything, nothing specific, the draft and Trace Jackson Davis. And
is he trying to get the West Virginia job?
You know what? I didn't mention West Virginia, but I brought up coaching in the standpoint of basically how it's changed since he left. I mean,
right.
I mean, it's just really, I'm like, does that make you want to get back into it more, or does it make you want to say, well, let me sit back and watch this for a little bit longer? This is a little more comfortable here. But no, he knows, man, it's about having Cook or somebody else behind you. He's like, no, I definitely would like to get back in. You're looking to coach again, but said it has to be the right position. He said it has to be the right NIL position.
Wasn't Vital pushing him for West Virginia?
Well, he sent that he sent that big tweet out.
Okay. Just wondered. TC. I heard he was one of the first people to call JD after the JD news came out.
Damn it. I mentioned to bring that up. Gosh, damn it. Oh.
Is JD just going on his own, or was he pushed out?
I think he's going on his own. He just had that heart deal.
Right.
And that job is not good medicine for the heart.
No, it's not.
Although he's probably in as a relaxed atmosphere now as he's ever been in his entire career at Indiana.
Right.
But he's also done it for, I think what did he say, 37 years?
I think so. 16 at Indiana, yeah.
Yeah.
Who were we talking with that said he was the last holdover from Rick Greenspan?
Oh, was that yesterday?
Really? I thought Keg was there then too. Thought he was. Maybe not.
Keg was a student of Kit Klingelhofer. I know that.
Oh. Yeah. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if they promote somebody inside the department or they go outside.
I mean, wouldn't it be Jeff's job if he wanted it? I would think.
I would think so. I don't know if he wants it though.
He has a ton of other responsibilities, I think.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, not just football. He runs the rest of the media relations department, I believe.
Right.
Basketball is its own separate monster.
All right, here we go, guys.
Quick, attentive service. Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this first day of summer, Wednesday, June 21st. And bringing the heat is Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. How are you, sir?
Good. There's no heat here today. It's like 70 degrees and raining. Your Cincinnati Reds are bringing the heat, my friend. You got to be enjoying that.
Yes. 10 straight, man. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, I can't remember they won 10 games in a month.
Impressive, and they're fun. They're fun to watch too. That's what makes it even better. I noticed they had 28,000 last night. So that's if you give people a product that they enjoyed, they will come out. Cincinnati is definitely a big baseball town. They have not been given a reason to be excited for a while, and I think you got a lot of pent up demand. And if this team, can keep it up, that place is going to be packed in August and September.
Well, yeah, the ownership angered the fans last year with that comment.
Right.
And I get it. They should have been angered, but I didn't think this was possible. I'll be honest. I did not think it was possible. And they had a plan and it was working.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of their young guys have delivered, I think, a little bit sooner than people thought they would, which is always good to see. They've got a nice mix of guys like India and Senzel, and who've been around the big leagues for a few years and have some experience. And then they have this new wave that's come up and brought energy, and don't seem to be afraid of anything. And then Votto comes back and homers in his first game. And to me, the most interesting thing will be when we get into July, how willing will they be to make any moves to go for it this year, or will they be a little bit more conservative and say, we're going to be good for a few years. We're not going to trade any really good pieces for a 2-month fix. We're going to wait on, the next couple of seasons.
You had a great piece out recently. Well, all of them are great. It spoke specifically of, and it's kind of ironic how Mike Woodson is the older guy. Here he's in his 60s, and his star's on the rise, and Calipari's is dimming at Kentucky there in Lexington.
Yeah, I remember when the NBA draft, when Cal first started, he dominated the draft. He had like 4 guys in the first 18 picks, and lottery pick after lottery pick after lottery pick, and 15. Obviously, I think he had 4 of the first 14 picks. And this year they're at a point where they'll probably have 2 guys drafted. They could have 3, but they might only have 1. That would be Case and Wallace. And if you look at Mike Woodson and what he's done, Hood Schifino was a borderline one and done. He'll probably be a lottery pick. 2 years ago, before Woodson took over, most people were saying Trace Jackson Davis will never play in the NBA. And he stayed 2 more years and got better under Mike Woodson. And now there's talk he could sneak into the last 2 or 3 picks in the first round, but he'll definitely be picked in the second round. And like Mike Woodson can talk to people on the recruiting trail and say, here's what I've done with these 2 guys. Here's what I can do with you. Talk to them. And Hood Schifino has been very open about talking about what Mike Woodson and the coaching staff did for him. So, that's to me, that's the best recruiting tool you can have. When players talk highly of a coaching staff, to me, that means more than when a coach just talks about himself. Did we lose Jim?
It appears he either disconnected or I'm sure he'll be back with us shortly, but
that was the best monologue I've ever had, and he missed it.
I know. It's like he was so intimidated by all the knowledge you were dropping, Rick, that he felt like there was nothing else more that he could say, and he was just going to end it right there.
That's okay.
I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
In my position as a producer, I'm usually half paying attention, half doing something else. Oh, it looks like he's rejoined with us. Let's go ahead and bring him back in. Jim, you with us?
Power outage.
Uh-oh.
Did you really?
Yeah, but I'll get back on.
I noticed you got darker all of a sudden.
Are we going?
Yeah, we're on.
So I lost you up for a second. I apologize.
I basically said Hood Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis have both elevated themselves in the draft much higher than anybody thought possible before they got to working with Mike Woodson and his coaching staff. And Hood Schifino in particular has been very open in telling people that. And when you get into the world of recruiting, that's a very powerful tool. If you can say, talk to Hood Schifino, talk to Trace Jackson Davis, let them tell you what happened here and how they benefited from playing here and from this coaching staff. And, Cal in the very beginning had Wall and Cousins and Bledsoe and Patrick Patterson. And then in 2015, I think it was Towns and Trey Lyles and Devin Booker. And there was one other guy on that team I can't remember, Willie Cauley-Stein. And this year he might only have one guy picked, and he might not. He could be. He probably will be a lottery pick, but it's not a lock. Case and Wallace is like Hood Schifino. He's a borderline lottery pick. So it's going to be an interesting night. And I noticed yesterday that the IU coaching staff is going to be in New York with Hood Schifino, which is a smart move. Calipari's been very good at doing that ever since he's been in Kentucky. And for you to be in that room where the next couple of groups of college recruiting classes are watching that show, that's a good way to sell your brand.
Yeah, because Indiana has not been able to do that for a long time. Although not that they haven't put players in the league, they have, but not since Victor and Cody in the top 10. What did Von Lego?
Yeah, he might have been in the 10 to 12 range. I don't remember. It's the first time. If they have 2 players drafted tonight tomorrow night in the first round, will be only the second time since '93, I think. So yeah, it's a big deal.
And the wave of recruiting is already going in a really good way for Mike Woodson with the visits that he's gotten just over the last couple of weeks. I mean, my gosh, they've had I think 7 of the 9 visits they've had are all top 30 players.
Yeah, there are not a lot of good players in the 2024 class, and there are not a lot of good players in the 2025 class. Now, they haven't gotten any commitments yet, but we'll see how it turns out.
And that's the key is you can get a lot of visits, but until you start getting those commitments, but with I guess you can count the commitments of guys like Khalil Ware that have come in. It's not, but that is in essence doing the same similar sort of thing. Mbako, guys like that. This is going to be a team that has a lot of name recognition in that regard. Now they've got to do it on the court, but it's certainly back to you think of the Bob Knight recruiting days where he could get basically who he wanted. And it was a different recruiting then, of course, but Indiana was still getting really good talent. I know Bob Knight did a great job of improving his players and then raising their stock. But let me tell you, Brian Evans and all those guys who played in the NBA, they didn't go there because they were not good. They were all good. And Indiana's back to that, or getting back to that, on their way there. They're not there yet. So don't count your chickens before they're hatched. But but if you're not getting the visits, you're not going to get the commitments.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the easiest way for me to say it is that there's a lot of reason for Indiana basketball fans to watch the NBA draft tomorrow night. And there have been a lot of years over the last several decades where there was no reason to watch it. Who was the last player drafted? Romeo?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he was a lottery pick.
He was. But, before that, what was it? Probably OG and Thomas Bryant, I guess. I don't know. Haven't been a bunch.
No, I was talking with Coach Crean today when he was on with just a little bit ago as I moved this camera around. Sorry about that. But, of the NBA players that are in the league, they're mostly Crean players. Yes, other than Eric Gordon from before and Romeo afterwards, everything in between is Tom Crean. And he's got others that are playing overseas still, too. I mean, James Blackman is still playing.
Robert Johnson, I think, is playing. He's gone again, I think. Hi, John.
Is it more valuable today than it used to be?
What's that? You broke up at the beginning. Is what more valuable than it used to be?
Getting these guys into this draft now, because basketball seems to be so cyclical and quicker, it seems like it's more important to get those guys in the league now, kind of like Cal was doing in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it is important to get a few of them in the league. I think to win, it's more important to have some guys that stay around for 2 or 3 years and have some older guys on your team. But in terms of, it's important to have 1 or 2 of those guys on your team. You're not going to win big in the NCAA tournament unless you have 2 or 3 guys on your roster who are NBA caliber players. I mean, you're not. Talent wins in the end. I mean, I'm not saying they don't have to be the top 2 or 3 picks in the draft, but you got to have some first round talent on that team. We saw that last year. Connecticut's going to have, I think, 3 players picked, at least 2 and maybe 3 players picked on Thursday night. So, yeah, that's important. Even when Virginia won, I mean, they had DeAndre Hunter who got picked. Ty Jerome, I think, is in the league. Kyle Guy eventually got picked. I think he did get picked that year. He hadn't done much in the NBA, but he did get picked. So, yeah, you got to have talent. And it's big in terms of recruiting to be there and have it's free publicity for your school.
Absolutely. And not only free publicity, but great publicity. And speaking of that, we had, I was talking earlier about the study that was put out showing that Indiana had this great bunch of money lying around from athletics when it's actually not quite the case. It was kind of artificially artificially inflated with a grant from the IU Foundation. I think some of that was to offset some of the COVID year problems that they had. So they're not as profitable as it seemed, although they are profitable.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that list because they were ahead of a number of schools that make much more money off football. So I didn't know. But yeah, that was it was an interesting list, and they were what, 18th maybe? Is that what they were?
13th, actually.
Oh, 13th. Yeah, I my eyebrows did go up on that one because most of the schools that are making big money are drawing 50, 60, 70, 80, 100,000 people for football. And IU's not at that level.
No, and when you don't have the football program to build that on, that's where there's no one. I don't think any what I call basketball school would be at that top list just because it brings in so much more. Football brings in so many more dollars.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you got teams in the Big Ten that are drawing 2 to 2.5 times as many people than IU in football games. Plus, they probably have a lot more suites. Plus, a lot of those big name schools, I mean, they're not playing like Indiana would go to play at Western Kentucky or at Bowling Green or whatever. Those teams, they're not playing non-conference teams like that on the road. They're always going to play at least 7 and if they can 8 home games and juice up the revenue. Where there's years when Indiana's only played 5 or maybe 6 home games. How many home games they have this year? Is it 6 maybe? Because they got the one game in Indy.
I think it's just 6. If it's that, I can't.
Right.
I'm trying to remember, but that Louisville game, that could really go bad for Indiana, kind of like Cincinnati. I mean, it was great to schedule that, but man, I we'll see if they're ready or not. Where's Louisville with Jeff Brom? How's his first season there going to be? It's because it's his first year there. So, but transfer portal, it's probably that helps a first year thing with that. How are they looking?
Yeah, I mean, as well as Indiana did in the transfer portal, I think Louisville did even better. They've got a top 5 group out of the portal. They've gotten a couple of really good DBs out of North Carolina. They've got another Stanford guy. They got the quarterback from California. They got a running back from Wisconsin. They got a receiver, I think from Georgia State, who's really good. Their incoming transfers are good. That's a huge game for both teams. For Indiana, it's as we've talked about a million times, when you only play 3 non-conference games, you better win them all because we know how they struggle in the Big Ten. And for Louisville, they open at Georgia Tech on a Friday night, September 1st. They should win. Then they come home, I believe, and play Murray State. Should win 2-0. And then if they can beat Indiana, they're 3-0. They got Boston College, which is down. That's 4-0. Then they have NC State, which lost its quarterback to Kentucky. They could win that game. That's 5-0. They got a chance to be 5-0 playing Notre Dame at home. And suddenly, when you think of that, they'll become a bit of a national story with a first-year coach, playing Notre Dame in his first big home game at 5-0. That Louisville has a chance to really make some hay early on in the Jeff Brom era.
Louisville's playing more Indiana teams than Indiana is.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Brom has done well in recruiting too. He's got some good commitments already in the 2024 high school class. So yeah, I heard ticket sales are going really well. I mean, it was a home. Everybody in anticipation knew it was a home run hire, and it has been so far.
And he's set up to succeed. I think he's set up to succeed better at Louisville than at Purdue.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at their schedule this year. I mean, the ACC went away from divisions this year, unlike the Big Ten is doing it next year. The ACC did it this year. And Clemson and Florida State, who are the 2 best teams in the ACC, are not on Louisville's schedule. And in their first 8 or 9 years, whatever it's been in the ACC, they played those 2 every year. And they never beat Clemson. So getting Clemson off the schedule is a big advantage. I think most of the preseason ACC predictions have it either Florida State, Clemson first, the other one second, and then Carolina third. Louisville doesn't play any of those 3 teams. So they got an old-fashioned Purdue football schedule there where they got the easier conference schedule than Indiana gets.
Rick Pitino, you had a piece out of him a while back, though. But, man, I love watching him. He's just fun. And is he having – I know winning national championships is the ultimate but is he having the time of his life right now in New York? He hasn't screwed up, so he's the toast of the town. He's got 46 new faces on his roster to come in this year, and throwing out the first pitch at a Mets game with a former player. I mean, he's got to be riding
the biggest wave of his career, maybe. Not from a winning standpoint, but from a happiness standpoint.
I mean, he's living on the fairway at Wingfoot Country Club, which is one of the top, 25 golf courses in America. His youngest son, Ryan, lives and works in New York City, so they hang out together all the time. He's building a program. He loves doing that. He's getting kids. He got that Dingle kid that Indiana wanted from Penn to come there. Carolina point guard decommits. He goes to St. John's. He's going to be back in Madison Square Garden, which is his favorite arena where as a kid and where he coached with the Knicks. And the most important part is he's going to be able to point to himself and say, you all said I couldn't do this, and you said I did this, and you said I did this. I'm back, and you're going to have to deal with me. And, ESPN is going to be jumping all over it. He's going to be a big national story when the season starts. I'm sure he'll schedule some high impact games. So yeah, and they're going to be good. They're going to make the NCAA tournament, and he's going to become the first guy in the history of college basketball to coach 6 programs to the NCAA tournament. And he's going to take a pretty solid crack at being the first guy, I think, to take 4 different teams to the Final Four.
And he can do it, especially in this age.
He can. And I read something which I think is interesting, that Carolina and Duke for a long time have feasted on recruits out of the New York City, New Jersey area. Carolina, especially Kenny Smith, King Rice, Mike O'Corin, I can go on. And Duke obviously had Hurley and a few other ones. Rick Pitino's going to make that hard now. Rick Pitino's going to be in there getting people trying to come to St. John's, especially if they're playing in the Garden.
Joey Hart committing to Kentucky. Were you surprised?
Interesting. Yeah, I never seen him play, so I really can't comment on it. I know his 3-point shooting numbers are very impressive. I've heard good reports about his athleticism. My question would be, they've already got 3 McDonald's All-American guards, so how is he going to play? And secondly is, they're going to recruit over you next year and the year after that. And it's rarely been John Calipari's MO at Kentucky to take a guy who's a 3-star and develop him into a prime contributor. Hasn't happened very often. He likes to go with the top 20 recruits and throw them out there and let them play. So I don't know what he told Hart, but in my view, I mean, what is he, 30 miles from IU? If he was that good, I would think Indiana would have pounced on him a long time ago. So it's interesting.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is just, I've guessed this before. I think that Woody is, the one thing I've heard is from everybody is he tells you like it is.
Right.
And I believe that because I've heard it from too many different people. I think that maybe they were honest with Joey Hart and said, look, we wouldn't mind having you, but we've talked to some other guys and we're waiting to hear from them. And then he just ran out of time in essence. But then that brings up another question: is what's Indiana going to do with this spot? I thought it would have been filled by now if it was going to be filled with the draft fallout, but that didn't happen. And we're still just kind of sitting here. Workouts have started. That was 2 weeks ago or whenever. So what are your guesses on that?
I mean, I they've got some new walk-ons. I mean, 12 is plenty in my opinion. I mean, let's be honest. Last year, how much does Leal play? How much did Duncan play? When there one, who was the other guy that didn't play much? Geronimo did play some. There's one other younger guy that didn't play.
It seems like you don't need them until you don't have one guy and you get 6 guys get hurt.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But I think you can get by with 12.
Oh,
and, that I guess they're holding the spot open for future use. I don't know if there's anybody else out there that they still are thinking about or not, but I think you're better off not to give a scholarship to somebody if you're really not convinced he can play there. That's my view. And
especially one that's going to be a freshman that could potentially be a 3 or 4 year guy.
Yeah.
You don't
plus, there's a lot. If it's a local guy, that's always tricky because if it's a local guy who sits on the end of the bench and somebody's not playing well, why isn't this guy playing? And why is when I saw him play in high school, he got 40 against Shakamak or whatever. He can get in there and score. And it's a dangerous route to take sometimes, because with local guys, they either have to be really good or willing to sit on the bench. Like, that's the way I view it. If they're kind of in between, it's tricky.
Rick, what's up next for you, man?
Well, this afternoon we're going out to talk to Jeff Walls, the Louisville basketball coach, is doing sort of his off-season press conference.
The Louisville women's basketball coach?
Yeah. Do you follow the TBT?
Oh, absolutely. Love it. Is that starting?
Louisville has a team. There's going to be a regional here. Peyton Siva and Russ Smith and a bunch of guys in the 2013 national championship team are playing on it, and they're having a media availability today. So that's going on. I've never understood really why Indiana's never been able to put a team together.
Is it me either? But does it have to do with those guys that would be were able to play or played for different coaches at Indiana? Are there enough guys from the era that they would need where they could put a team together that would be?
Well, the NBA guys can't play, so that eliminates them. And then I think some of the foreign guys are afraid to play because they don't want to get hurt. But Peyton Siva retired, so he wants to play now. And he's got the sort of leadership gene where he's kind of behind it all. And they have a former Louisville assistant coach who's behind it, Mark Lieberman. I think they've gotten some, people in the community who've invested in it. And then they decided they not only would have a team, they would have games here. So today they're going to announce the schedule of what teams are going to be here. But it's been because Syracuse has always had a team, and a couple of other schools have always had teams. And there's been talk. I know Elston and a few other guys talked for a while, Mo Creek maybe, about having a team. But those are the kind of guys that would have to be Matt Roth or Colin Hartman or Zach McRoberts, or some of those dudes would have to want to play. Tijon Job, how about a Tijon Job sighting?
Oh, man. Crown and Cougar would love that. You ever see? Are you on his Christmas card list? Or, I don't know if he still sends them out. But.
Yeah, I don't know if I got one last year, but I usually get one. Yeah.
I didn't get one last year either. I think that there may have been a year off, but yeah, those were always funny. Always funny.
They are. Yes,
but brother.
What's the ugly grouper?
Oh, that's a restaurant down on Anna Maria Island, just west of Sarasota. Also part of the Endeavor Hospitality family of restaurants. But we have a lot of listeners down in Florida. So
I got to thank you. I was in Bloomington actually last Friday. A bunch of guys that I went to school with got together for a reunion. We were Right Quad people, and on the way out of town, I stopped at the store with the meat that you gave me the gift card for. Yeah, it's a different name now, though.
Well, it's Chop Shop is the restaurant that's next door, okay. And they may call it the whole thing Chop Shop now.
Okay, well, I went in there and got a couple New York strip steaks and some ground chuck and some Polish sausage and something else. Had my cooler loaded up and brought it home and grilled on Saturday, and it was fantastic. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Often as possible. Soon as football season comes around, boy, you'll be back in Bloomington.
Yes, I will. I was surprised. I mean, Bloomington's changed a lot. Usually when I come to Bloomington, I just go to the game and leave. But actually, we all stayed at the Spring Hill Suites there on College, I think it is. And we had lunch at the Tudor Room in the Union, and then walked around campus for a while and ate dinner, obviously, Friday night at Nick's. Had to do that. And Kirkwood's all closed, and they have that area near the square where the restaurants are out on the street and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, back at Abbott. Great time. Sounds like awesome. Rick Bozich, can't thank you enough, man.
All right. Thanks, Jim. See you next week.
Absolutely. Rick Bozich, WDRB.com. Make sure you're giving him a follow. If not, you're missing out. We're back with more on Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I had a power outage, man.
I was wondering, I was like, did he just accidentally disconnect? What was going on there?
And then it was just a quick thing, but it knocked the stupid daggone Wi-Fi internet.
It's like a power surge. So like
yeah,
power outage. Yeah.
The light went boop, and I went, oh, shit.
Is there a storm?
Nope. Oh boy, look at that Kevin Brockway picture. I bet he'd love if you used that one.
What we got?
This is coming up on picture from Facebook from 4 years ago, but
Yeah, it's just because it's so big, like it cuts off his head. I don't use that one.
well, no, I meant you can.
No, I see it.
Yeah,
I have that one in my inventory. It's just it cuts off the top of his head, so I don't usually use it.
well, that's good, cutting off half his head. I got a new cover coming. I've been dealing with this thing for like 3 months. Look at my screen.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that looks nasty. I've never really had a cracked phone screen. I feel like, and you have, I would say usually happens to iPhones, but you don't have an iPhone.
Oh, it's not the phone. It's this cover.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, it's just a cover. I got another one coming that's been like this for 3 months. I'm like, I just always forget. No, the phone's fine.
Got another thing coming. Look at me. I'm serenading the audience today.
See?
Oof.
Better that than the phone.
Yeah, you're right about that.
You got another thing coming.
All right. You'll have about 8 minutes here.
Rated by Endeavor Hospitality Group, launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. It's the first day of summer, June 21st. Thanks a lot for being with us. We appreciate you. Don't forget, Never Lose Hoop golf outing Thursday, July 20th at the Golf Club at Eagle Point. That, of course, is benefits area children that are dealing with cancer. Come out and play, put a team together, donate, or become a sponsor. I can't wait. It's going to be much bigger. 3 hole-in-one contests for a total of 20 grand. A $10,000 and 2 $5,000 hole-in-one contests. On par threes. These are not, I'm telling you, these are all par threes. Yes, Andrew, Rick Bozich is a pro. Pro's pro. He is great beyond. He is a unique journalist in he never, you don't see his opinion a lot. He just gives you the story, man, and it's there right in front of you every time.
Most of the time, a columnist angers people, and I'm sure he'd say, "Oh, trust, I have some coaches get mad," but I'm talking about readers. He just hasn't had that issue, and it's amazing that you can do what he does as long as he has, and the way he has. We're very lucky to have him. I'm disappointed I did not bring up J.D. Campbell today when Tom was on with us, Tom Crean. Daggone it, because J.D. was his SID there when he was in Indiana. And I know that he would have loved to have given J.D. a shout out as he always does. And I'm sure I wonder if he knows. I'll have to text that to him. He might not, since that was sent out in an email just a few days ago. But daggone it, I hate when I forget to do something like that, because there's no one that would know the rigors of that job that J.D. Campbell is still doing until the end of June, but has done for the last 16 years at Indiana. His sole job is to be the sports information director for IU men's basketball, and that is a job in and of itself. And it's a stressful job. Trust me. Believe you me. You got to deal with people like me. So there's that. You got to deal with the media. You have to deal with your coaches. You have to deal with the players. You have to deal with administration. Man, they're just always dealing with everything. And JD has done just an incredible job. Can't thank him enough. And looking forward to having him on the show after he retires, which is going to be a treat. There's no one that knows more than the sports information directors. Kit Klingelhofer, he's a wealth of information and knowledge. Still, it was one of my former professors at IU. Very fortunate in that regard. But JD, huge baseball fan. I think he played baseball in college somewhere. But a huge baseball fan, Braves fan. As speaking of which, the Braves and the Reds have a series coming up this weekend. I think as Andrew pointed out earlier. But that's going to be, I hope they can jump on them like they did last year to start the season, but we'll see. College World Series, back at it. Is there one game tonight or two? LSU plays Wake Forest, and I'll have to look to see if there's another one. I'm not positive, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. John Boy, who is on the program tomorrow?
We are loaded tomorrow. We'll have Dustin Schutte for the full show with us tomorrow. We should have Matt Taylor with us. We should have Chris Denary back with us. We'll have Kyle Nedenrip making up for not being on today. And we'll have Dylan Sin on as well.
Gee whiz. Am I going to have time to breathe?
I know. It's a really good question. Bring your oxygen tank.
Man, we'll definitely talk some NBA draft with Chris Denary. Maybe he'll give us a hint on who we're going to take, who the Pacers are going to take at number 7. We'll find out. But yeah, wow, loaded show tomorrow. Heck, fire. I cannot thank Tom Crean enough for coming on today with us, as he is always so gracious to do. Of course, Rick Bozich, as always. Man, always fun talking to Rick. It's like sitting down and just having a conversation with somebody every time with him. Like you're sitting down talking to one of your best friends, but you leave filled with tons of knowledge. Love having him on, as well as our buddy Bob Kravitz. Is he back this Friday? I believe he might be.
Yeah, I believe he'll be back with us Friday.
Yeah. Looking forward to that.
1 minute.
And looking forward to the Reds, see if they can continue this hot streak, man. 10 games down. I think they have another one tonight against Colorado. Should be the third in that series, I believe. We'll see if they can
sweep the Rockies and keep that thing rolling. That would be something. Keep pulling for them. We'll let you know about it tomorrow. We'll be here to talk about it. I can't thank you guys enough for joining us. Thanks a lot to John, the producer, as well, always for keeping us between the white lines, but mostly to you guys. Without you, we don't have a reason to be here, and we're grateful to you and for it. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.